So, where do we see disenchantment affecting the church? Well, I would argue that the modern Western church is, just to pick two examples, is characterized, first of all, by a secular outlook. It may seem rather odd to talk about the church and secularism in the same sentence, but consider what secularism is. Secularism is a movement that says, in essence, that if you want to be religious, you can be religious, but this is a purely private matter. It should not have a role in public life. This is something that is, it's up to you. If you want to be religious, great, you can be religious. Just keep it to yourself. It should not play any role in public policy. It should not play any role in government, anything like this. So it goes from public and private to something that is really cut off from society as a whole. That's a simple definition of secularism. And I would argue that, particularly in the evangelical world, we are seeing a secularized gospel, but we also see it in the mainline churches as well. How does this work out? Well, let's do the mainline first because they're relatively easy. The mainline churches, liberal Protestant churches, um, had a problem when scientism, when Enlightenment thinking and scientism came in. They basically accepted it, but they needed to find some excuse for why you should even have religion. Schleiermacher, one of the founders, the fathers of liberal Protestantism, liberal theology, argued that what religion gives you is a kind of knowledge that you can't get through science. It's kind of experiential knowledge, essentially emotional experience that gives it value. And it's a true kind of knowledge that's different from what you can get from science. We'll let science have the natural world. Religion won't play any role in our understanding of the natural world, in our understanding of politics, any of those kinds of things. But on a personal level, it provides you with this kind of emotional experience and intimate knowledge that you can't get through science. That was the first attempt. That didn't really go very far. So what happens after that is that liberal theology begins to push the idea that the gospel is really about social action. It's really about improving the world. Contrary to traditional Christianity, which argued for original sin, that argued that people were corrupt and corruptible, they argued that people are basically good, but that the problems in society came about because of the institution. Society itself is the problem. There are institutional issues that are the thing that creates the problems in society. And so the job of religion was to promote a series of values and policies that would deal with the corrupt institutions in society to make a better world. This becomes known as the social gospel. Now, it's worth noting that historically, the social gospel was part of the gospel, along with the message of salvation. These two were seen as both parts of the gospel of the kingdom. What happens when the liberals go in that direction, by the way, picking up a secular view of what church is for, it's a purely secular vision. We're going to fix the unjust institutions in society. We're going to address societal problems and so on. What happens is the theological conservatives go to the opposite extreme. They say, no, 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 the social gospel is not the gospel. The gospel is about sin and salvation. Well, that was always part of the gospel, but it also included the idea that just like people need salvation, the unjust institutions in society need to be saved as well. So the two of them had always historically been held together. You even see this in the Second Great Awakening, which is pushing for abolition and a whole host of other social reforms in the midst of revivalist preaching in the 19th century. Now, though, with the push of the social gospel, the conservatives bifurcate. They split the gospel. They let the liberals have the social gospel. They push entirely personal salvation, which is itself a form of a secularized gospel. When you emphasize, well, what is the gospel to the typical evangelical? Yeah, we've got the gospel for the liberal. What is it for the typical evangelical? It's about personal salvation. It's about personal salvation. It's about personal morality. In other words, we've privatized the gospel. We've bought into effectively the secular idea that religion is a private matter that that doesn't have any public implications. So you get this very, very privatized version of religion that emphasizes personal salvation, individualism, me and Jesus, getting my sins forgiven, and that sort of thing. And then evangelism based on that, but that doesn't actually extend into playing any role in public life. Uh, Arguing that we should try to affect society is rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. I don't know how many times I've heard people say that. Now, there are people in the conservative movement who say, no, 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 we do need to fix the problems in society. But where have they typically gone to fix them? They've gone into politics, and they see the solution to social problems in getting the right people elected. So you still got personal salvation, but you combine it with a vision of social reform that is not anchored in the church, it's anchored in politics, thereby secularizing it there as well.